Good morning, boys and girls. Another Thursday commute, another Thursday video. Now, yesterday, my friend David Patterson, aka That Dude in Blue, made a video called Why the R32 is Better Than the GTI. Now, as you guys may know, I'm in my S4 right now, but I was a GTI owner for 4 years. And I think I'm gonna have to disagree with David. I think the GTI overall is a better purchase and in some ways a better car than the R32. So I'm gonna talk you guys through that right about now. Now I understand this video may offend some or a lot of you actually, because there are a lot of R32 owners that watch my videos apparently, and there are a lot of VR6 fanboys out there. The main selling points of the R32 over the GTI are really the all-wheel drive and the VR6. When I say and the VR6, a lot of people will tell you it makes more power than the GTI. A GTI with a stage 2 tune and a downpipe makes more power than an R32 and will pull on said R32 all day long. The VR6s are not that powerful and they're not that fast either, and they put a lot more weight over the front axle than a 2-liter turbo does. One category that the R32 has the GTI beat in, hands down, is the soundtrack. You can't beat the sound of a VR6 motor. Now, all-wheel drive is also huge in the snow. As you guys know, I drove my GTI in snow tires in the winter for 4 years and really had no issues, but obviously if I had all-wheel drive, it would have been easier, and I probably would have had an easier time getting up hills and stuff like that in the snow. Besides that, I'm gonna argue that front-wheel drive is actually more fun in these cars, and by these cars I mean the Mk5 GTI and R32. Here's my reasoning before you go crazy in the comment section. The R32 isn't that fast. It doesn't add that much drama. So in order to get any sort of drama going, you have to be pushing the car at like 9 or 10 tenths through back roads and really exploring the limits. This is kind of due to the all-wheel drive system, which is a Haldex system, not a Quattro system. They're different. Basically, it handles power well. It knows where to put the power and it keeps you going in a straight line with no drama, basically. Now, the GTI, on the other hand, is front-wheel drive. You can chirp tires in a second, you can be spinning the wheels, and when you're coming out of a corner, especially on back roads, if you don't have a limited slip diff, the car will oftentimes spin the tires, which adds a little bit of drama, which adds a little bit of fun. It means you don't have to be pushing the car 10 tenths to have like a little bit of tire squealing, a little bit of, a feeling on the edge, even though you're totally in control, or at least most of us are totally in control. Don't go and do that and crash your car, please. I also think the GTI is better balanced than the R32, like I said before, because there's not a V6 hanging over the front axle. It's only a 2-liter turbo. It's a little bit lighter, and that means that there's less weight on the front end, which makes the front end of the GTI a little bit more darty, a little bit more willing to turn in than the R32 is. Next reason I buy a GTI over an R32 is quite simply the price point. You have a GTI with 60,000 miles and an R32 with 60,000 miles, the R32 is probably going to cost 2 to 3 times as much, depending on the mileage and depending on the guy selling it. Now, while that R32 is probably going to hold its value a little bit better, I think the GTI is a better purchase because the money that you save from buying the R32 can go into making the GTI faster and handle better than the R32 does. It can also go into winter tires, so then you don't really need the all-wheel drive super bad. I think generally you can find a reliable GTI for around $6,000 to $6,500, whereas an R32 you're probably looking at 14, 15, maybe 18 for a really good one. I mean, for $6 grand in a GTI, you could be KO forward with an upgraded clutch and be making like 330 horsepower, versus the R32 that's still going to be completely bone stock and make 250 and not make any noise because it doesn't have pipes on it. Another thing that you get with the GTI that you don't get with the R32 is options. You get to choose whether you get a manual or a DSG. Now, both transmissions are great, but I think in the Mk5 specifically, the manual suits the car better. You also get a choice of 2-door and 4-door. Now, me personally, I think the Mk5 looks much better in a 4-door than it does in a 2-door. Now, you could say 3-door, 5-door, whatever. The R32 you can only get in a 2-door. Now that's a big turnoff for me because one, I like to use my back seats. No, not like that. And two, I think it looks better. Another big selling point of the GTI, especially for me, was how easy it was to mod and how readily available the mods for it were. Now that's not to say R32 mods aren't available, but they really don't do that much for the car. The transmission in the GTI is also, I think, better. Now David mentioned this in his video. He mentioned how the R32 really revs out. It's got some really long gears. I think it's more fun, and David mentioned this, I think it's more fun to be rowing through the gears in the GTI GTI, you know, you come into a turn, fourth, third, second, third, fourth, back down to third, into fourth. I think that's much more fun than being in second gear and third gear all the time and just kind of having to wait for the car to rev out because it's not fast enough to go through the gears quickly. Now, the last thing, and the thing that the R32 has, now the last thing to consider when buying a GTI versus an R32 would be the resale value. Now, I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but GTI values, especially recently, ask me how I know, I sold mine, have absolutely tanked. You can get them for dirt cheap, which is great if you're a buyer, but down the road, they may be worth even less. Sorry, I'm really bright right now. The sun is coming through the trees. Down the road, they may be worth even less. Whereas the R32, it's a limited production run. There's only 5,000 of them out there. And no matter how much the miles seem to go up, they always seem to hover right around that 12 to 15K mark, with the good ones sitting right around 18. Unfortunately, the money that you save on resale value will be lost trying to make your car faster than a GTI, which is also not gonna happen. To sum this video up, both are great cars. I think the GTI is a better purchase unless you're specifically looking for an all-wheel drive VR6 car that you're gonna slap a big, huge turbo on to make it fast. Let me know your thoughts down below. I know I probably upset some people by saying the stuff that I did. As always, thank you guys for watching. Go out there and spread some positivity, and I will catch you guys in the next video.